I'm Dale Marie Taylor. I am a writer, and I have a doctoral degree in literary studies. I'm here to share a few things with you about how to write your own novels. I've written a couple of my own, Hester's Journey, which I write under the pen name Kate Air Campbell, and A Home for Easter. This is part of a series of works. Um, this Home for Easter is the first one, and Hester's Journey is the second. But I'm here to talk to you about descriptive writing. For years, I taught composition and literature, and I want to give you a few hints in case you would like to do some writing of your own, how to incorporate descriptive details into your writing. When I taught, I focused on the senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. If you, when you're writing, focus on sight alone, what you can see, that oftentimes isn't enough for the reader. Everybody can see things, and of course, it's important for readers to see the environment, but it's also important for them to hear what's going on, to get a sense for what something feels like, for what something tastes like, the mention of food, the mention of how something smells, how you move through the environment. Is the character in the story moving or seeing from left to right, right to left, up, down? When another character observes a person or character in the story, is there some sort of description that gives us an idea what the person looks like from head to toe, what color the hair is, how that person smells, how that person talks, what he is wearing? And I would caution you, if you're writing historical fiction like my two books are, that you try to stay consistent with the description of clothing for the time. And that might take a little research, but it's well worth the effort. You also want to be cognizant of movement as you're describing the environment that a character is in. What is moving about? If you're in a crowd, what does that crowd? How does that crowd move? How is the environment? Imagine it as a palette, a painting, but maybe a 3D painting, something that you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. So I've included some examples from my books, and some examples of descriptive details. This is in chapter 1 of A Home for Easter. And this is Easter Ward, the principal character, who is dreaming as the story opens. And she describes, I describe her dream. Bodies littered the landscape. People fell and were buried by their people and soldiers. It seemed to be happening in the future, and quickly. She moaned and twisted in her covers, a heavy wool blanket that kept getting twisted around her midriff. She frowned, her brow furrowing, as she thought the truth being revealed to her. Totem Bear came to her next, motioning in the opposite direction. Easter jerked up, sitting straight up in her bed in the little room she shared with her sister. Beads of sweat glistened on her face. So you can see that gives us some idea of what she was seeing, what she was feeling. That's in the first chapter. And then later on, in the chapter, we get a specific description of John, her ex-husband. Uh, he sighed and sat down in Easter's small house. His 6-foot frame seemed to make the little cottage much smaller. He wore dark trousers and a dark western shirt, the garb of the white men he associated with daily in his efforts to help the Cherokee. His muscled arms strained against the small shirt. He wore his long, dark hair pulled back from his face, his strong jaw curved in long lines away from his ears, where he wore a long earring on one side and a feather on the other. So that's an example of a couple of descriptive details from A Home for Easter. And in Hester's journey, which is focused on Easter's daughter, the first book is the story of the Cherokees during removal and Easter's efforts to find a home during that period. And the second focuses on her daughter Easter, who is serving as a healer during the Civil War. And here are a few descriptive details from that text. The small plot of land had been sold to them by the neighboring white family. The barn was rough-hewn but large for a farm the size of her mother's. And then later, Easter was dressed in her blue calico dress, a white headscarf tied around her hair. Her dark hair was pulled back into a roll, and her olive skin shone with health. So that's a couple of examples there, and later in the Easter text, as Ruth asks her brother to help her and Dagataga, who is Easter's brother, there's this little passage. Charles rubbed his jaw, frowned, and put down his quill. She was asking him to invest. He was dressed in a fitted dark coat with tails, vest, dark pantaloons, and calf-high leather boots. He was surprised that Ruth had not left by now. Many Cherokees and missionaries were being urged to move on. So those are a few examples, and you'll find many more. It's important when you use descriptive details in your writing, whether it's fiction or otherwise, memoir, whatever, to sprinkle those details throughout your text. You don't want to overwhelm your reader. You can be a minimalist like Ernest Hemingway. Those are writers who come from a sort of journalistic background, tend to use minimal details to save on space in publications that go out to the public regularly. But in your text, use the details in the way that you see fit. Every text has a rhythm of its own, and you use them in the way that you feel most entertains your readers. Thank you for listening. I hope you'll go online and check out my books, Hester's Journey, which is the second in the Apple Hill series, and A Home for Easter, the first book in the Apple Hill series that I publish under the pen name Kate Air Campbell. They're only a few dollars at your favorite online retailer. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye now.